You're listening to 91 Reasons, a journey into the twisted landscape of pop culture. Keep your hands and arms inside the podcast at all times. And now, the voice, Jeff Tucker.
I'm getting crotchety in my old age. You know that it's coming. You know that the crotchety is coming because you see it in the people that you watch get older as you're growing up. But you never it's never going to happen to me. You know, Homer's like, I'm going to rock and roll all night and party every day. And then Grandpa's like, oh no, it'll become strange and it'll happen to you. And it's like, no, man, it ain't going to happen to me. And then it does happen to you. And you're shocked by it. I just, I don't know what it is. I was talking to somebody the other day and I said, they have classes on how to cook. They have classes on how to drive. You can take a class, learn how to surf. Anything in the world is a skill. The one thing they don't have is classes on how to get old. We're all just supposed to discover this on our own. We're all just here, and we don't listen to old people. Man, I don't listen to you. You're an old man. What could you know? I don't know everything. We waste so much time fighting the inevitable that we don't prepare for it. I've spent the better part of my life writing. I used to write all my scripts longhand in notebooks. And then I graduated to typing. Typing was the one skill I learned in high school that I have used nearly every single day of my life. Thank you, Mr. Ferry. That unfortunate name probably caused you to die an early death, but your skills that you taught me are well used in my life. And subsequently, my hands hurt. I don't know if I mentioned this on the show before, but my middle fingers are starting to grow sideways. Right where the knuckle joint is, something is growing. I'm starting to get like emperor hands. I look at my hand and I go, that wasn't there before. It wasn't there before. That's new, and it's on both hands, so it's not like an anomaly. This is here. And they start popping up. When the evil witch eats the apple and her hands get all gnarled, that's what it looks like. I'm all gnarled up. I mean, it's just the one gnarl on the one knuckle. But I fiddle with it because it's like a bony protrusion. And the other offshoot is my hands just hurt all day. Sometimes it's just the ring finger. It's dull and a throbbing, pain. And I told my wife and she goes, oh, that's arthritis, you're old. I said, I am not old. I don't need bifocals or arthritis medication, even though at this point I need bifocals and arthritis medication. But, God, the crotchety, I have zero patience for teenagers. When did it happen? I used to be one. I used to be hip. I was not a hip teenager. I was a hip 20-something. I was a learned 30-something. And now I'm a crotchety 40-something. And I'm not sure when this happened. It sneaks up on you. It's like you're sitting there doing something. All of a sudden you turn around and crotchety just grabs you. Oh, I'm crotchety now. Oh, I hate everything. I hate emojis. What? What? And I think it's because, I've been around now 44, almost 45 years. So it gives you a different perspective. I can see, the natural progression of things. And up until this point, and some certainly will argue the point, up until this point, the whole point of existence has been to better ourselves. And we have been doing that. Better transportation, better medicines. We live longer. We know more. We strive to be better people and better people to each other. And yet, I look at my kids, and I grew up in high school. You got a piece of paper and you wrote a note to a girl and you tried to sound cool and smart and sophisticated, and in the bottom you're like, do you want to go around with me? Check yes, check no, and then you folded it up into like a little triangle and you threw it at her. And that's the way you communicated. And when you got it back, if she checked yes, man, you were in like Flynn. So I've heard. Nobody ever checked yes. Either checked no or I didn't get it back. But there was finesse to it. There's always been finesse to it. You know that the courting rituals that we have, all the courting rituals were put together by Hollywood based on what kids were doing out of instinct and hyping it up into hyper reality, you know? Up until the late 40s and 50s, there was no such thing as the teenage years. You went to school, you went to work. That's it. Having fun, dating, that was not part of it. Your parents decided who you married because it made sense for the family. Getting married for love, asking a girl out, picking her up with flowers, that's all from the movies. Thank God we had the movies there to create the fabric of our pop culture. You know, it's the way it goes. Used to be, I mean, I've read the articles. In the pioneer days, the entire family slept in one bed. Even when mom and dad were making more family members, if you know what I'm saying. The movies gave us all our own bedrooms and posters on the wall. And I see now, like, kids today want to dismantle all of that. You know, you can't go up to a girl and go, wow, you're really good looking. I'd like to take you out. Oh, that's offensive. You're judging me on my physical beauty. Well, how else? I don't know you. How else are we supposed to get to know each other? So I worry about my kids in the future and this whole bizarre dismantling of 100 years of pop culture. And it's not the evolution of it. Because then I'd see it. But the de-evolution of it, the deconstructing completely of it. Gender roles they want to throw out the window. There's no gender roles. Well, sorry, there is. For 99% of us, we have gender roles that we stick to. Even transgender is a gender role. So I just worry, you know. And I don't subscribe to that, oh, boys will be boys, you know, when they're beating up on girls, that's how he says he likes you. See, I never did any of that. So I don't have any concept of that. Every interaction I've ever had with a woman has been out of respect and fear. A healthy dose of teenage fear. There was a girl I liked in high school. I went to her house and I put flowers on her door. You couldn't do that now. The parents would call the cops. What? How are we supposed to, you know? It's Back to the Future all over again. I never called a boy or talked to a boy or sat in a parked car with a boy. Well, how am I supposed to meet anybody, Mom? Well, it'll just happen. Like the way I met your father. Oh, so stupid. Grandpa hit him with the car. See what I'm saying? And did I bring it back to the Future? Yeah, of course I did. Because this is 91 Reasons, folks. So, I don't normally do new movie reviews because I haven't, you know, the movie hasn't soaked in enough. But I think because I'm turning crotchety, and the reason for the whole preamble here is that I don't, this has to be a really good, well-crafted movie for me to even want to see it again. Like, I love The Martian. I've seen that a few times. Guardians of the Galaxy a few times. But a lot of movies, like, it's one and I'm done. I don't need to see it anymore. I don't need I want my 2 hours back. And in the case of this episode, it was X-Men Apocalypse. 2.5 freaking hours. There's no reason for these movies to be this long. I never thought I would get to it and say, I have superhero fatigue. These movies are so interchangeable now. They're so the same movie over and over again that it's time. It really is time for the superhero bubble to collapse and then build it back up again. Because for every breath of something fresh like Deadpool, we get X-Men Apocalypse, we get Fantastic Four, we get the reviews for Suicide Squad are in the toilet. Batman versus Superman. We're getting Thor Ragnarok, even though nobody asked for it. So X-Men Apocalypse, it got me thinking though, because the X-Men movie in 2000 was the actual, I mean, and I know that you're going to say, well, Blade was first in 98. I know Blade was first. But you'd be hard pressed to find anybody watching Blade in the 90s who even knew it was a Marvel comic. And fine, if you say Blade, I say Howard the Duck. The first Marvel movie to hit the screen, right? But X-Men begat the superhero universe. The modern superhero universe was begat by X-Men. Batman had died a horrible death at the hands of Joel Schumacher. Every superhero franchise they tried to do in the 90s, Batman was the only one that made it, and then he committed Harry Carey. The Shadow, the Phantom, Blade had a sequel, so I'll give Blade some leeway. But Blade wasn't like a normal superhero movie with all of the blood and the R rating and the dark horror overtones. But X-Men was the one that came out. And it's a low-budget movie, and all of a sudden, superheroes are going to be taken seriously because of X-Men. Now, X-Men, when it debuted, was at the we went and saw it at City Walk. And it's a real bummer because City Walk had the Marvel Cafe, and it opened for about 10 minutes before they bulldozed it, just like Planet Hollywood, but with all Marvel icons. I can't believe that's never been revived. That Disney hasn't put a Marvel Cafe somewhere in one of the parks. It just seems like a no-brainer, unless there's some deal with Universal that they can't, because Universal still has the Islands of Adventure, Marvel Island. But we never even got to go to the one at City Walk. It was gone in a fraction. The only reason it was there was about a year later we went to the park, the theme park itself, Universal Studios, and one of the restaurants was still using Marvel Cafe napkins. They had Storm, Spider-Man, Wolverine. I took a whole stack. It was sold them on eBay for $2 a pop. Yeah, that's what I do. But X-Men premiered, and we all decided to go in costume to this thing. So Rachel and I put together X-Men costumes. Now, growing up, I read a lot of comics. I never read any X-Men comics. But in the 90s, when the Toy Biz superhero figures exploded, I collected all those. So I knew the X-Men primarily from the toys. So I put together a Cyclops eyepiece and gosh, I can't remember what Rachel went as to that. We had a whole bunch of superheroes. And, we had done it before. We had actually gone to City Walk before as superheroes just to have dinner. I mean, how weird is that? I went as the Green Lantern. Rachel went as Scarlet Witch. We even took baby Luke dressed as the Tick. Funny stuff, man. That was the night our friend Yosef, very proud gay man, dressed up as Catwoman, and men hit on him all night. And he would go, can I buy you a drink? And he'd go, sure, sailor. And oh my God, we roared. So funny. He looked really good as Catwoman, let me tell you. But X-Men, we went in costume. Yes, we even had a friend Bruce who didn't have any hair, who came as Professor X. So, X-Men was different. Really different. It took its source material seriously. It opened with that Auschwitz scene with Magneto being torn from his parents. And it really started the superhero renaissance off with a bang. Because here's a movie that had a moderate budget. They recruited at the, what they wanted, which were bona fide actors. Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Halle Berry, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, something that Wizard Magazine had been speculating for years who was going to play Wolverine. They thought Glenn Danzig should play him. And instead it was the guy from Mission Impossible 2, Doug Ray Scott. He got cast as Wolverine. And he had to pull out because of Mission Impossible 2, which probably to this day he sits and weeps because the one constant in the X-Men movies is Hugh Jackman's portrayal of Wolverine, which basically is the one thing everybody agrees on. It's great. He's great as Wolverine. He's not as short as Wolverine should be, but he gets enough right that it's fantastic. So X-Men comes out. Bryan Singer tackles it. You've got two classically trained British actors, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, chewing the scenery. Right? You've got Rebecca Romaine Stamos as Mystique. Now she's cast, this is going to sound callous, she's cast because she's really good looking. And the part requires her to be nude with blue makeup on most of the time. So I don't think they hired her for her acting chops, right? We'll get to why that's important much later in the show, right? And the movie comes out, and it's not what you're expecting. It's a serious take on what it means to be an outsider. The X-Men were always the outsiders. It was like everything that that team at the time at Marvel, I'm going to get it wrong because I'm not Scott Tipton, for God's sake, the comic guru, but Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, and a whole host of guys who took a fledgling comic company with nothing to lose and gave them, right in like one after another, gave them Spider-Man, Hulk, X-Men, Iron Man, all these astoundingly lasting characters, right? So it gets brought to the screen, and it's everything you want it to be. It's about being left out. All of the X-Men feel left out. And at Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Children, that's where they feel like they belong, right? So the plot is superfluous. Somebody's trying to do something bad to the president, and there's a shapeshifter, and blah, 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 and Magneto has a helmet that blocks Professor X's telekinesis, and we have Famke Jensen as Jean Grey, and we have Cyclops and the whole bit, and we got the Jet. We have they have Rogue who can steal powers, but if you touch her, she'll kill you. She'll suck your life force out of you, right? We meet Wolverine in a bare knuckle steel cage match, and it takes its time getting going, and really sets the stage for a standoff of different viewpoints, and a standoff of two intelligent guys. It's not just a brawl. The X-Men movie is not a brawl. There are fights in it, but it's not stupid. So this formula works for them. Makes a lot of money. It's number one at the box office a bunch of weeks in a row. Late summer release, right? They almost immediately put the sequel into production, and the sequel one-ups it by giving us Nightcrawler, played by Alan Cummings. I don't have any paperwork up, so if I get it wrong, it's all going from memory, folks. Alan Cummings shows up as the Nightcrawler, and he's bamfing in and out, and it's beautiful. The way the ink dissipates when he goes. Alan Cummings, I'm a big Alan Cummings fan. I think the guy's fantastic. And the second X-Men movie, X2, X-Men United, what it does is what any good sequel is supposed to do. It doesn't just rehash the plot of the first film. Like a lot of movies, hey, that worked, it'll work again, right? Instead, it builds on it, like Toy Story 2. Hey, those characters that you like? Well, here's who they really are. Here's where Wolverine comes from on Alkali Lake. Here's Jean Grey struggling with her powers. Here's Magneto and Mystique being pulled into the X-Men. I mean, in the first film, they're the bad guys. The first film ends with Magneto in a plastic prison, debating the issues with Charles Xavier once again. We see a fantastic jailbreak where Mystique injects these guards with metal shavings, microscopic, so that Magneto can sense them in their bloodstream and pull them out. It's a really logical, fun, well done escape from what should have been an escape-proof prison. But and then the movie kicks into gear. We get to see, a Colonel Stryker who who gave Wolverine his adamantium skeleton, and we get to see Jean stretching her powers beyond belief. It's all really well done. A really well done movie. X2, like a lot of films, it's the best in the series. The second film is usually the best in the series, because once you hit past 2, you get into the danger zone of simply repeating yourself. Unless you've got a good roadmap like, Return of the King. So when it comes time to do the third X-Men movie, of course they want Bryan Singer back because he did the first 2, but Bryan Singer's got a Major Jones for Richard Donner, and what Richard Donner was able to do in the 70s with Superman, which is, to this day, arguably the best superhero movie ever made. Superman 2, even with its weird foibles, is stellar storytelling. It is the hero's freaking journey. It is Clark Kent giving up his powers for love and then fighting to get them back. The director's cut is astounding. I know Richard Lester is credited with the theatrical version, but it really is Donner's film, especially that special edition. But Singer's got a Jones for this guy, so he leaves X-Men to do Superman Returns. And Superman Returns is basically a sequel to Donner's Superman, ignoring Superman 3 and 4, which everybody should, to revisit that world. And I went and saw Superman Returns opening day on IMAX 3D. The whole movie wasn't in 3D, but certain parts were. It would flash to tell you to put the glasses on. It was the first real modern day 3D, and it was astounding. It was so astounding that you liked the movie you were watching, even though Superman Returns isn't a very good movie. All that star power of Kevin Spacey and everybody else, and it's just, it holds too close to the Donner film, has too many moments, and I know they're in trouble right at the beginning when Superman starts stalking Lois at her home. I was like, he's stalking Lois Lane, he's watching her at home. This is disturbing. So Singer goes off to do that, leaving a hole for the director's chair for X-Men 3, X3, The Last Stand, which is one of the worst superhero movies I've ever seen. Even though it's got Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Rebecca Romijn, all the Hugh Jackman, Famke Jensen, they're all there. Boy, it's terrible. You know what it suffers from most? It suffers from lack of new character development. You have all these auxiliary X-Men and mutants walking around, and you don't know what their powers are until their powers are the exact thing everybody needs to get out of the situation they're in. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know who the people are that hang out with Magneto, only when he needs them to do something specific, that's what they do. It also has a stupid Vinnie Jones scream, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!" Like, really? Really? It's a terrible, terrible movie. And the blame falls directly on Brett Ratner. Terrible, terrible. It's so bad that, and even though it made good money, but it's so bad, it will put the X-Men to sleep for a few years. And when it comes back, it won't be what you remember. So, in the interim, they decide to give the people what they want, which is a standalone Wolverine movie. Hey, I go to these movies. I love going to the movies. Man, is that Wolverine movie awful. It is so bad. They steal from so many plots. They steal from Superman. They steal from themselves. It's terrible. It's got Gambit in it. Like, I hate Gambit. I hate Gambit in every form. I know people tell me, well, the cartoon's good. That's the cartoon, man. Live action Gambit, I've seen a million cosplayers. I turn the other way. I don't want to see Gambit in any form. And this movie, it had Gambit, and Will.i.am is in it, and Wolverine's got like a special, I don't know, strike force, I don't know. And then he ends up battling the world's worst Deadpool, played by Ryan Reynolds. And I remember, like, again, I wasn't a big comics fan, but I knew who Deadpool was, and I knew that in all the comic books I had seen, he is famous for his quips. And in the movie, they take his mouth away. I remember sitting there, like, watching it going, did they even read the comic? What the hell is this? And he's, like, teleporting around the top of this nuclear power plant. Like, it makes no sense. And then they cut to a guy, like, he's controlling Deadpool on, like, a keyboard. He's like, engage, initiate, fire. Like, oh, this is a movie. This is a movie made by someone who's never seen a superhero movie, doesn't know the tropes, doesn't know how to finesse your way into, from scene to scene to the big battle, have it all make sense. It's just glop thrown at a screen because, hey, Wolverine, everybody. Now, by this time, this is the fourth movie Jackman has played Wolverine in. I mean, that's hard to believe that by the mid-2000s, we've already had 4 Wolverine outings. Then they decided to mix it up. X-Men First Class. They're going to do a prequel and show you how the X-Men were formed. So basically what it means is they're going to recast everybody. Because by the end of X3, X-Men blah, Phoenix has killed herself. She kills Professor X in the first half hour. He disintegrates. He's smiling like a jackass while he's disintegrating. And they do that de-aging thing. Early de-aging on Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart. They look like mannequins. Terrifying. So the only way to even begin to undo the damage of X-Men United was a prequel. Like, I get it. This is what you got to do. So they go back to the well. They go back to World War II, Germany, concentration camps. Only this time the bad guy is Kevin Bacon. We're in the Cold War by the time the story takes off. X-Men First Class is a pretty good movie. Matthew Vaughn directed it. He's the guy who directed The Kingsman. So he's a fantastic action director. And First Class is a pretty darn good movie. You get to know the backstory of all the characters, even if you didn't want it. It's a great cameo by Wolverine. It proves that Kevin Bacon is a hell of an actor because he's genuinely menacing in it, even though Kevin Bacon is not really menacing. Really, I mean, he's a nice guy, but he comes across pretty menacing in this. There's a good cameo by Michael Ironside from V. But here's the problem. It's not a problem. It's just, this is the way things turned out. They hired a relatively unknown actress named Jennifer Lawrence to play Mystique. Because they gotta have a Mystique in it, gotta show where Mystique came from and her relationship with Magneto. Now, Lawrence had just done Hunger Games when I assume she's filming X-Men. So by the time X-Men comes out, she's a massive movie star. She was in Winter's Bone, she was in Hunger Games, and now she's in X-Men. So, X-Men First Class shows a lot of restraint. They use her quite a bit because she's a really good actress. But what happens is, for the next two movies, the fame of Jennifer Lawrence is going to be a hindrance because the character of Mystique, even though in the X universe that we've seen, Mystique is a minor character. She's a sidekick character. We're going to see her bumped up to lead because Jennifer Lawrence is a massive movie star. And they're paying for her, so they're going to put her in the movie, put her on the marquee. But I'm not sure which came first. We're actually going to have to endure the second Wolverine sequel. So it's just called The Wolverine. The other one was X-Men Origins Wolverine. Like, that's going to be a series of X-Men Origins. Yeah, right. This one's called The Wolverine. James Mangold directed it. It's terrible. It's a terrible, awful, dreary. It's based on Frank Miller's run on Wolverine, where he took the character to Japan, got him in with the samurai and like honor and all. It's a great comic run, not a good movie run. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's just boring. Can you imagine we're at a point where superhero movies are boring? And you know what? They don't have to blow the world up to be exciting. They just have to have weight, and they have to have characters that you care about. And the problem with Wolverine, and they do it in the movies, they take away his invulnerability, so he's vulnerable, and that's where the tension. Oh, Wolverine could get hurt. Oh my God, But I mean, they're not going to kill him. He's a franchise character. They're not even going to hint at killing him. So a lot of the tension's taken out. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies in the 80s. Arnold Schwarzenegger made movies where you go because you know he's going to win. We're just going to see how. The Running Man, I'm sure he'll figure something out. Predator, he's probably going to get the Predator in the end. But Wolverine, he's probably going to live to see the sequel. At least we don't have to endure the crap of Sabretooth. I mean, and in the first X-Men movie, Sabretooth is played by Tyler Mane. He's a wrestler guy. We get, oh God, I just lost his name. My wife really likes him. Liev Schreiber, great actor. Not a good Sabretooth. Not at all. Lame. And the dreary Japanese sequel. I mean, now think about that. We've got 4 X-Men movies and 2 Wolverine movies. We're up to 6 Wolverine movies. So then comes in the inevitable X-Men sequel to First Class, which is X-Men Days of Future Past. Now this is a one of the bigger comic storylines where in the future mutants have been hunted by the Sentinels, and it's up to them to go back in time to stop it from ever happening. Now, because at this point, remember, Jennifer Lawrence is the biggest actress on the planet. The movie is all about Mystique. Every scene. Now, Michael Fassbender is a pretty big actor too. James McAvoy is a moderately famous guy from Wanted, and he was not the fawn from Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, but the guy with the centaur, not the centaur, but the satyr. So it's a really good cast. The guy who plays the Beast is great, taken over from Kelsey Grammer's nonsense in X-Men 3. I really enjoyed Days of Future Past. I've actually seen it twice. Because it's a time travel movie, I wanted to see it again to make sure I understood how it all put together. And if you've seen this movie, maybe you can explain it to me. But how they travel back. See, they're in the comics, it's Kitty Pryde who goes back in time. She wills herself, her psychic powers will herself into the past. That's just how it's done. Obviously, in this film, Wolverine's the bigger star. Wolverine and Mystique are the big stars of the movie. So Wolverine's the one that you have to send back. So she puts her hands on him and sends him back. And he's back in the past for a week, 10 days. And I just don't know how the time stream works because he's still laying on a slab in physical form in the future, which is their present. But now he's in the past. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You almost want Basil Exposition to look at the camera and go, and don't you at home worry about it either. You know, you get to see a lot of, in the beginning, X-Men in like little tiny cameos. It's very cool. I'm a big fan of that. I mean, you get to see right at the beginning, you see Storm die. You see Professor X is having trouble keeping the doors closed. They're running from the Sentinels. And Professor X knows if Wolverine is successful, all of this will vanish and no one will remember it. So it's a fun, I'm a big fan of time travel movies. It takes place in 1973. So we're a few years past First Class. We've got, Magneto is under arrest for the assassination of JFK. They have to get him out of prison. That is probably the centerpiece of the movie. They go enlist a mutant named Quicksilver who can run really fast, and he breaks Magneto out using his powers. And you can tell, like, they sat down and said, "We're gonna rock this," because the Quicksilver sequence is stellar. It's Evan Peters, the guy from American Horror Story. He's playing it fun. And here's it finally, here's a mutant who's not brooding. He likes his powers. He's really fast. And I think it comes across, and when he's doing the sequence, that he's having fun. And I'm not sure in superhero movies when we lost that. You know? I know the Marvel movies have moments of fun. Guardians has a lot of moments of fun. Even Civil War, for all of its preachiness and its collateral damage, you know, you guys in Africa, or wherever it was, you killed 4 people and you brought a building down and there were people in it, 4 people, and they're all dead. What are you going to do? And like, can we just have a superhero movie that's fun? You know, when Spider-Man shows up in that movie talking about The Empire Strikes Back, it's fun. Hey guys, heads of studios, it's okay to have fun. Age of Ultron, you walk out of that remembering the scene where they try to pick up Thor's hammer. The rest of it, garbage. We don't have to have these movies that are so bleak and the end of the world every single time. I think that's why Ant-Man was so good. It's not about saving the world, just about this particular moment, mission in time. But the Iron Man movies and the Avengers movies and the Thor movies, they all have to be about the end of the world and dreary. And Batman vs. Superman, even though I enjoyed the film, like, it makes you want to take a nap afterwards. You alright? No, I don't feel well. Did you get sick? No, I watched Batman vs. Superman. Oh, I'm gonna go take a nap. I totally understand. Oh, okay. So, Days of Future Past has the fantastically talented Peter Dinklage in it. He's the guy that builds the Sentinels using Mystique's shape-shifting powers. So she has to be the one to, you know, pull the plug on it. There's a fantastic sequence where Magneto lifts an entire stadium and drops it around the White House so that no one will interfere. So it's a good story because it's about them preserving themselves. They're saving a timeline that only one of them has even been to, you know? But here we start to get X-Men confusion because, like the Star Trek Prime and whatever universe, I don't know what's going on. What's canon and what's not anymore? Who the hell knows? You know, is there somebody at Fox who is the caretaker of the X-Men universe, and like when they bring the script in, he pores over and he's like, well, this can't happen because this didn't happen, and you've got this out of line with the timeline? I don't think so. I don't think they care that much. I think they care more about spectacle than they do about cohesive storytelling. And that's unfortunate because with this new stupid idea of cinematic universes, blah, blah, blah. Wouldn't it be nice if everything meshed and gelled perfectly to the point where you were impressed with it? But they don't, that's not a priority to them. They don't care. New director, new vision, new characters, new this, new that. Now we're up to 7 Wolverine movies. X-Men Days of Future Past is the 7th appearance of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Are you kidding me? And before we get to Apocalypse, we have to bring up Deadpool, which came out in February, where Colossus, and then I don't know who that other girl is. She's got some name like Skylark Songbird, I don't know, or Metaton, I don't know. I don't have any idea. I don't know. But Deadpool has a line where he goes, "Are you going to take me back to see Professor X? Is it McAvoy or Stewart? Because I can't keep track of your timelines." And I swear to God, in the theater, I was like, holy crap. That is somebody paying attention. Because I don't know what's happening in the X-Men storyline. I have no idea. Instead of making standalone movies, they're making these standalone, convoluted, connecting movies. They're not standalone. They appear like standalone, but they're so embroiled in what's come before and so worried about setting up what comes next that sometimes they just forget about the story of the movie they're telling right now. Apocalypse, 2.5 hours, folks. I endured 2.5 hours of X-Men Apocalypse. Oh my God. Again, this is where the crotchety comes in. Because I looked at the running time and I sighed. I'm like, oh God. Why can't he tell his story in 2 hours? Why does he need 2.5 hours? Because here's the thing. You got to go to the movies. You got to make plans. You have to get a sitter if you got kids. You got to get to the theater. You got to get there early. You got to get your tickets. Got to get your popcorn. Got to get your Coke. Got to sit down in time to watch the movie because there's 30 minutes of previews. They have to tell you in the commercial what theater you're in case you forgot on the way in. Welcome to AMC. Oh my God, really? Drink Coke, buy popcorn, throw trash away. We got it. Okay, I got it. And now here's 30 minutes of movie trailers before your 2.5 hour X-Men experience. Oh, I want to blow my brains out. You have to take a vacation day to enjoy these movies. That's how freaking long they are. And I get, I think if they had said, not if they had said, but like I know going in that Fellowship of the Ring, it's 3 hours. And I still yelled on Two Towers. I said, how many previews are you going to play before you start the 3-hour movie? Oh my God. I think my picture is up in box offices across Orange County. A-hole alert. This guy's going to complain. He's crotchety. I'm crotchety. 2.5 hours. Just tell the story. So, for our 2.5 hours of X-Men Apocalypse, we get the origin of Apocalypse from, he looks like he came out of the movie Stargate, and he's not from space, he's from Egypt, he's all blue. The X-Men movies have got a real thing about blue. Mystique, Nightcrawler, Beast, and Apocalypse are all blue in this movie. Like, everybody's blue. Okay, that's their choice. I mean, that's the comic. I get it. And it's the guy from Star Wars. What's his name? I can't think of his. I have so much rattling around in my head, folks. The pilot, Poe Dameron. I said Cameron Poe. That's Nicolas Cage in Con Air. Poe Dameron, complete opposite. That guy, Isaac somebody. Oscar Isaac, he's playing Apocalypse, and he's under so much makeup, and I'm a fan of makeup. I'd rather see makeup than CGI. But holy moly, this guy is buried. You can barely see him. He can't even move his neck. He's got so much crap on. And he's gonna rise from the ashes. You know, he's trying to do some Faltorpan Star Trek 3 body switch stuff. And it gets interrupted, so he's buried, and then he's awakened in, present day. And he's going to search for 4 mutants to lead his apocalypse. He's never called Apocalypse in the movie, by the way. He needs 4 mutants to lead him, so he gets Archangel, Storm, Psylocke, and then Magneto. And for 2.5 hours, there were scenes missing. At one point, Magneto is living in Poland with a wife and kid, and he screws up, saves some guy at work, gives away his identity, and did I fall asleep? His wife and daughter are killed. I don't remember seeing it. I just remember his wife and daughter are dead. They are? When did this happen? Did I miss it? Did I go to the bathroom and miss Magneto's entire story arc for this movie? I don't know. Did you see X-Men Apocalypse? Is there a scene? Do they show the wife and daughter being killed, or is it all done off screen? I don't know. Because if it's done off screen, they could have substituted a lot of superfluous scenes in exchange for one that really had weight. Stupid. So these people are all going to help Apocalypse blow up the world, or I don't know what he wants. He somehow wants to raise up all the minerals out of the ground and destroy everything and then make it again. I don't know. It's very confusing. Along the way, Mystique, see, now we've jumped to 1983, so we're moving up through the decades. Another problem. When they finally introduce Quicksilver again, he's supposed to be 10 years older. It looks like he stepped out of the other movie. I get that Mystique's look doesn't change because she's a shapeshifter, but everybody else is supposed to be aging. This movie looks like it's the day after Days of Future Past, which went such a long route to reset the timeline. And basically at the end of Days of Future Past, Phoenix is alive again. The X School is back in business. Kelsey Grammer makes an appearance. And what Future Past does is it erases X3, X-Men United. It just erases it. I'm sorry, Last Stand. It erases it. It goes from X1, X-Men, X2, to Days of Future Past in the timeline. So he had a middle finger right up at Ratner, all that movie you made, it's gone. It's out of continuity. I've undone it all. So when Apocalypse starts, I don't know, last time we saw everybody, it was present day, and the school was open, and everybody was alive, including Rogue and Phoenix and Cyclops, Scott Summers, who had died in X3. So it's weird, Apocalypse shows up, and we're still using Fassbender and McAvoy. I know that McKellen and Stewart are not getting any younger. I get it. But we're doing another weird period piece that is telling a story that's not going to have any effect. Days of Future Past at least had ramifications for the present day. Total ramifications. This one is happening in the middle. It's a prequel, so whatever happens, everything's going to be reset by the end. I don't know. So it's interesting why they did it. The kids go see Return of the Jedi and make a lot of jabs about how the second film in the trilogy is the best, the third one's always the worst, and the new Phoenix looks basically right at the camera, wink, wink, talking about X3. Got it, honey. Everybody's, these characters are recast again and again, and it's confusing only in that, I know the characters. The guy with lasers out of his eyes is Cyclops. The blue chick is Mystique. Hank McCoy is the blue guy. The Beast. Nightcrawler. One guy, Alex Summers, Scott's brother, I don't know who he was, until Professor X literally said to him, it's time for you to wreak havoc. So I was like, oh, he's Havoc. Got it. Okay, got it. Let's talk about clunky dialogue, right? But here's the thing with Apocalypse. We're now, are you keeping track, folks? 8. The 8th movie featuring Wolverine. He's only a cameo in this one, but he's in there. So now we have the 8th appearance of Wolverine with another sequel on the way. 9. I mean, it could be 10 if you count his being referenced again and again and again in Deadpool. But here's the problem. We're now on X-Men movie 8. 6 X-Men movies and 2 Wolverine movies. And we're still dealing with Auschwitz, concentration camps, being an outsider. Like, nobody progresses. And Magneto, every time he progresses, they take 2 steps backwards. He's a good guy. No, he's a bad guy this time. No, now he's good. Like, I don't know which one he is. I thought he was a good guy again. Now he's a bad guy. He's destroying the earth. And let's talk about this. The reason I brought up not Age of Ultron's, Civil War's nonsense about collateral damage. Oh, you killed 4 people. Have you seen Apocalypse? I'm going to guess, if I had to guess, the death toll in this movie of random citizens just going about their lives, 250,000 or more. Maybe 1 million, maybe 10 million. They show entire cities being laid to waste. When Apocalypse builds his pyramid, the entire city is destroyed. They show New York, cars are flying off into the sky. Bridges are being torn down. Entire city blocks are being disintegrated. The X-Men movies are not supposed to be about these kind of stuff, folks. It's supposed to be the power struggle of the nature of man. Good versus bad. Which side are you on? And is it ambiguous? And now they've just become Roland Emmerich CGI destruction pornography. And that's unfortunate. That really is unfortunate because they had something to say. The problem is by the 8th movie, they're still saying it. They're just adding in gee whiz bang explosions to keep you occupied in the theater. The best moments in these movies are just the small, quiet character moments. Jennifer Lawrence shines as Mystique. She's a great actress. And they give her things to do. Cody Smith McPhee, who's playing Nightcrawler, is doing just as good as Alan Cummings is in it, in the other movie. But the other ones don't fare so well. I mean, I don't know what's going on. It ends up with Professor X strapped to a table like Frankenstein and having his soul ripped out. And, they're going to switch bodies like Spock did in Star Trek 3. And there's a lot of, the clock is ticking, hurry. And I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking casting Olivia Munn as Psylocke. Like, Olivia Munn is a geek icon because of G4, Attack of the Show. We watched her every day. Now, we all knew she was going to be a big star. She's way too pretty not to. And she seems like she's fun to be around, and that goes a long way on a movie set. But every time she shows up, you're well aware, because she's famous for being her, you go, oh, it's Olivia Munn. Oh, cool. Attack of the Show. Now, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining at all. They put her in a rubber Psylocke outfit that actually looks like the character is supposed to look. They didn't dummy it up. They didn't add pants. She's wearing Psylocke's costume, and she looks fantastic. I don't begrudge the woman a thing. She worked hard to put that costume on, and she wears it well. Trust me. I just wonder, like, casting somebody that well known in the geek circles, whether it works or not. I don't know. The rest of them are unknowns. Storm's an unknown. I have no idea who played Archangel. I have no idea. As far as I know, they're just these characters. But gosh, what a mess this movie is. 2.5 friggin' hours. Will they or won't they? And blah, 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 blah. And I'm, no kidding, folks. The payoff is that Professor X loses his hair. And they're so proud, like at the end, like he's sitting in the wheelchair, as the door closes and like the X-Men logo, like, wait. 2.5 hours he lost his hair? That's it? That's the big revelation? Well, you want to know how Professor X lost his hair? He did it when he mind melded with Apocalypse. I don't care. Could have been male pattern baldness. He could have been put in a man bun. I don't know. I don't care. That's so dumb. I need real, like, in the movie it looks as if Quicksilver is going to reveal to Magneto that he's his son. And that's what we've been waiting for. That was the promise of the last movie. In this one, he doesn't say it. Everybody knows it but Magneto. What's the point? What's the point of getting up to the ledge if you're not going to jump? Jump and let's see what happens. Write your way out of it. Make it interesting. Take a risk. The guy losing his hair should not be the takeaway from this friggin' movie. Oh my God. Quicksilver has another tour de force scene where he saves everybody from a burning, exploding building. It's fantastic. It's the school itself. Of course, by the end credits, they're going to rebuild it. But, we have to regain the status quo. Did it bother you at the end of X-Men 3 that Jean Grey gets a statue after she's killed Professor X and nearly destroyed the world? I guess it bothered me. I know it shouldn't. But it does. Like, it's a monument to someone who killed the professor. But, they wiped that storyline clean, so it doesn't exist. Doesn't exist at all. It's 1983, so there's a lot of 80s fashions, which I'm a big fan of. Holy cow, Jennifer Lawrence's shiny purple dress at the beginning is amazing. I wish I'd seen it in 3D. And I'm not even a Jennifer Lawrence fan. There's, they go back to Alkali Lake. We see Weapon X. We see how they're, getting to use their powers and stuff. But here's the thing is, I just was confused the whole time as to where we are and why. Why are we in this timeline? I know why. Because Halle Berry's a pain in the ass. And the unknown they got to play Storm is not going to give the director any lip. I get it. These actors are hard to work with. Notoriously hard to work with. But that's the price you pay for getting these great characterizations out of them. You could have a drinking game with Apocalypse. They must say Charles 100 times. Hello, Charles. Oh, Charles. This way, Charles. What about Charles? It got to be a joke. Charles. Annoying. Oh my God, annoying. Edit the movie. Put it together. Watch it. Take notes. How many times we say Charles? Cut a few out. It gets annoying after a while. Especially if I'm noticing it. They got Psylocke cutting a car in half. I don't know what's going on. I'm just like, boy, they're saying Charles an awful lot. That means the movie's not working, folks. It's not working. 2.5 hours of it's not working. And it revisits a lot of things. We get the steel cage match right out of the first film. We get the, Apocalypse trying to take Professor X's body, which is very similar to what Magneto was doing to Rogue in the first film. But without the panache and style of Ian McKellen, Patrick Stewart. My favorite scene in any of these movies is in the first film when Magneto tries to take Rogue's powers. She ends up getting a white stripe in her hair. It's the one takeaway, right? And then in X2, they join forces, and him and Mystique are sitting on the plane, Magneto and Mystique, and he looks over and he goes, "We love what you've done with your hair." And it's in the way that only Ian McKellen can do it. It comes off both prissy, mean, and bitchy, and it's hilarious. I love when Wolverine tells the two of them to F off in First Class. I do enjoy these movies. I would have to, right? 8 movies, 16 plus hours, and I've seen some of them more than once. So I've devoted nearly an entire day of my existence to the X-Men movies. Oh my God, when you put it like that, it's so sobering. Like a whole day, 24 hours at least, or more, probably more. And they'll make more. These are never going to end. The Marvel name makes too much money at the box office. I just hope moving forward that it looks as if we've totally ditched the original timeline. You know, if they keep going the way they're going, the next movie should take place in the 90s. You know, we should get a House Party, Kid and Play, Crisscross, Daddy Macklemake, maybe some Hanson. You know, really put it right in the Chumbawamba. I get knocked down, but I get up again. The Divinals, I love myself. Right Said Fred, I'm too sexy for my love. I mean, these are 90s icons, man. And then the X-Men can actually battle Vanilla Ice. They can have Iceman battle Vanilla Ice. Why not, right? They're due for a real clunker. That's what's the scary part is. One of the next X-Men movies is probably going to be the big clunker. Because they've made all these movies. I mean, what's next? What could possibly be next? I don't know. I didn't follow the X-Men comics to know what the next. Maybe it's Onslaught. Onslaught was a pretty good 90s storyline with a good twist ending. Look it up. So, losing my voice, folks. Sitting out here. It's late at night. It's Cafe 80s. I'm hanging out. I'm going to refurbish the Cafe 80. Not refurbish. Just, I'm going to clean up in here. And I'm going to start doing a weekly YouTube show with pictures. You can actually see me and everybody. So look forward to that soon. Thanks again to our gracious hosts at Midsummer Scream. We're still talking about the great time that we had. I am considering running for Buena Park City Council, if you can believe that. I wanted to run for mayor. Mayor! That's a good idea. I could run for mayor. But they don't have a mayoral race here in Buena Park. The mayor is chosen on a roundtable rotation from the city council members. So by running for city council, I'm effectively running for mayor. So the hardest part, though, is getting 20 certified signatures. You'd think that would be easy, but man, is it hard. People are mean. I went door to door asking for signatures. I got 0. People slammed the door in my face. They told me they weren't registered to vote, which they knew they were lying. They told me, well, I'm not signing anything because I don't know you. It was really tough. And I'm just telling people, look, I'm trying to run for city council. If you don't sign my petition, when you go to the ballot, there will be one name, the incumbent. He is running unopposed. All I'm asking is I want to give you a choice between 2 names. You don't have to pick my name, so I'll let you know how that goes. I'll know by next week if I have the number of signatures required to run. Fascinating. I'm doing it as an exercise. I don't expect to win because the guy I'm running against is the actual, the mayor of Buena Park. But if you don't try, you don't know. I could win. I'm running to win. I don't expect, to run just so I can lose. Part of me wants to win. That's why I'm doing it. I'm putting myself out there. I don't have to. Took an hour and a half to get the paperwork from City Hall. I could have spent that time watching almost half of X-Men Apocalypse. But instead, I've decided in this election year, with so much mean vitriol on Facebook, that the only way I can combat it is if I do something that says I'm going to go out there and put myself out there. I'm a doer. I don't just talk. If you're listening and you feel the same way, go fill out the paperwork. Run for city council. Get involved. Don't just post all day thinking you're going to change the world with a hashtag or a tweet or a status update, because it's not going to happen. The only way to affect real change is to do it yourself, to initiate it yourself. So that's why I am going Tuesday, to as many houses as I can to get those signatures. I'll let you know next week whether I was successful or not. I have no idea. I'm dying to know what the next process is, next phase is. You know, is this where the hired goons that Mr. Burns comes to my house? Hired goons? I prefer the hands-on approach with hired goons. Fabulous observation, sir. So I don't know, but we'll see. The future is whatever you make it, so make it a good one. So, from the Cafe 80s, I'm in the convoluted one of the X-Men timelines. I don't know which one. Let me see if I had to pick one. I'm in the timeline that has Olivia Munn in Rubber. That's the one I'm in. So if you'd like to be in that timeline, join me on the next episode of 91 Reasons.
Thanks for listening to 91 Reasons. Please subscribe and leave a review on iTunes. Find us on Facebook. Is anyone even still listening?